All right. I know I'm breaking my own rule, not really rule, but back a lot earlier than what I said I would be, maybe. And I wouldn't even really consider this like back from my last video on Monday, but I just felt it pertinent to go live and talk about Fanatics Fest. I live in New York City, and so it's really easy for me to get there. Took me about half an hour on the train, and I have a lot of impressions about the show. I have a lot of thoughts about the show. So I just thought, like, what better format to kind of share my thoughts. Hey, Vintage Goats, thanks for tuning in. I'll keep my eye on the chat here as best I can to try and answer questions. So just as a like high level overview, it is a 3-day show, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Javits Center. This is the first time they're putting on the show. General admission tickets are $50, but if you add in the taxes, fees, processing fee, or whatever, it ends up being like $60 to get in. So just consider that is like double or more, like double what the national is for any day. The dealers that I spoke to, their table fee is like $3,000 for a booth. A booth is comprised of 2 6-foot tables, which go along the sides, and an 8-foot table that goes along the front. $3,000 for 3 days. That is also double the national. And the national, remember, is Wednesday through Sunday. So you have 2 additional days at the national as compared to Fanatics Fest. The way the entire show is laid out, if you're not familiar with the format of the show, it is like a sports, culture, art, mixed, not really even mixed, inside a card show. And so, hey, Mike. And so I think they actually did a good job of separating the two. So if you were interested in only doing a certain aspect of the show, you knew kind of where you needed to be. The card show was in the back of the room, so you had to pretty much like walk through all of everything else to get there. Jeff Wilson put out a video about the uniformity of the show and how he thought that was a good thing. Here is what I learned about that. Dealers were told specifically not to bring showcases, and they were telling me that the load-in process was very difficult. The Javits Center, if no one knows, is located on like 34th Street, and it takes up like many blocks, like width-wise. So it's like maybe 4 or 5 blocks wide. It's huge. Javits Center is huge. If it was like the location of the National Sports Collectors Convention, I think that would be like an excellent choice. Not just because I'm local here, but there is so much space. And they took up like essentially a couple of rooms in the Javits Center. When I got in, the line to pick up a badge was extremely long and wrapped many times, but the line did move pretty quickly, which was great. All I had to do was show my QR code and my ID with that. Oh, hey, Pastor Craig. And I was pretty much in. Yeah, $3,000 is your bottom, right? Like before you open up the doors, $3,000. And that's for the smallest size. So these bigger dealers who want more, and I'll get into that in a little bit. The interesting part about it, I mean, of many interesting parts, is that they instructed dealers not to bring their own showcases. The showcases that they gave them are these new Zion cases, which I think are interesting in a couple of different ways. They're smaller than the regular size display case that you'll see at a regular show, at a card show, where they're like, I don't know, 4 feet by like 2.5 feet or whatever it is. And they're a lot lighter. But these showcases are a lot smaller. They don't lock. They don't have a clasp. And Zion is charging like $179 a case. They do stack very easily and they're very lightweight. And so those are two like huge pros for them. The cons are that they don't lock. And so security is a big issue. And they're just smaller. So you can fit fewer cards inside of them. Regarding inventory at the show, as probably anyone would expect, it was mostly modern. There were some Pokemon dealers, not a lot, and some dealers that did both vintage and modern. I'm noticing that like a lot of modern dealers now have like at least one showcase or space on their table for some vintage cards. But because the cost of entry is so high, you don't get bargain boxes. You don't get like any of the low end stuff. Just forget about it. It's not going to be at the show. So that's like hey, Mike, that's like a very different speed for a lot of people. Like dealers that are setting up at this show, like know exactly what they have. They know exactly how it's supposed to be priced. So you're not going to go in there and get like a deal because dealers have we're able to bring less inventory, but it has to be at a higher price point to offset their initial cost of actually setting up at the show. And so I didn't see hardly any bargain boxes, a lot of like ultra high-end cards, of stuff that generally just sits around. When I got into the show at like 10 o'clock, there were a ton of people in the like experience part of the show. And not many people at all. I shouldn't say many people, but like a vast majority fewer in the actual card show itself. If you guys have questions, just fire them in there. I'm happy to answer questions, by the way. I pretty much was there from like 10 to 3. I dropped off things at Baseball Card Exchange. Otherwise, I would never have gone to the show. It's just like not for me. I don't need the fanfare. I don't need to see athletes, whatever it is. It's just like not what's important to me. All that being said, I actually did buy from one dealer. I bought like maybe 9 or 10 cards. Nothing like extremely interesting, but I spent like $500 with them, and I think I got some good value. Am I going to East Coast National? If I go, it'll maybe be Sunday, and that's a big maybe. I'm probably like 80% not going. I do think that this show took traffic from the East Coast National. I have like a couple of people there that I know that I'm asking at the show and trying to get like an impression. But there were a lot of people at this show, a lot, and more people at everything else than besides the card show. Luka Chilson, where the showcase is $179 to rent or to buy. So they are selling them for $179, but I think in your table you were given those showcases. I don't know how many, but they stack so easily. Like they stack like those totes. You can just like stack them right inside of each other. But I think they will be for sale eventually. So I do expect to see more dealers in the future have showcases like that. Was the vibe more hype or a card show vibe? Definitely more hype. Dealers that I spoke to so far it sounded like pretty mixed. People were definitely there. People were definitely spending some money. But they were not marketing the show as a card show. They're marketing more as like a fan fest. And what I mean by that is like, if you guys have ever been to All-Star Fan Fest, when the All-Star game like comes to your city, Major League Baseball puts on like a thing like this. They have a lot of like games and things that people can do, like hit a baseball or like shoot a basketball or like fire some hockey pucks at a goal. And that takes up like a lot of room because those things are big. The card show itself was like an L. And I don't know, you don't need, if you're going there for the cards, you don't need 3 days, like at all. You can do all of it like pretty easily in a few hours if you are like dedicated and moving. I wasn't walking with anybody, so I wasn't really like slow. How would you describe the volume in the card show? I would say pretty mid. Was it the best card show I've ever been to? Like, absolutely not. And it did not have the same like traffic that the National had, or a White Plains on its best day, or the Philly show on its best day was like not that. Another very interesting part about this is that dealers traveled for this show. Like dealers came from California, dealers came from Florida, dealers came from Canada. And so I think a lot of dealers are kind of trying to like wait and see how this all plays out. Like if this show blows up, then they're like in because they were in the first time. And so I think a lot of dealers, especially from like out west and down south, were flying in to try it out. And for $3,000 for a booth, like that's a big tryout. Is it true that they gave away creamsicles at the show? No, but they were giving away Slurpees when I did indulge myself. Were there any dealers at Fanatics Fest who you would have seen at White Plains? Anyone choosing that over this? That's a good question. I don't think so. But I do know that like just by speaking to some dealers at the show that like some patrons are choosing to do both because it's a multi-day show. But like I said, like I think if you're a local dealer and you've been doing White Plains forever, you're gonna keep doing White Plains for like $800 for the weekend or whatever it is, rather than $3,000 for Fanatics Fest, and it's a gamble. I just don't see like the upside of choosing that if you are already like in at White Plains. I think this show, like dealers really traveled for this show, which I thought was like pretty interesting. I think the shows like out in California have a certain like, they're like faster, just by like watching card show videos on YouTube and things like that of like shows out in California. People like deal differently out there than do out east. They're a lot faster. They like literally throw money around. And it's like kind of sick. People like that are like, they don't do business that way over here. And so I think like that atmosphere, you can kind of like feel that. I will say that like there were athletes like walking around and people were like literally chasing them and following them. It was like kind of weird. What have you missed, John? I don't know. I mean, I would say like it's a big card show, but like pretty average. The cost per entry is so high that you're just not going to get like dollar boxes. You're not going to get cheap stuff in cases. Like everything in the showcase was like 200 and up because dealers can't afford to have less in the showcases. So that caters to a certain crowd. $60 to get in at the door is like ridiculous. They're among the other things of like interest in the show. I have no idea like who was signing Mike. I have no idea who was signing for free. Like that was just not the thing that I was around. My like exploration ended when like I got like bottlenecked into a place and there were a lot of people and I just like turned around and like left. Was Baseball Card Exchange busy? No. I also spoke to a buddy of mine who works at SGC, and he said, based upon the number of submissions that they got at the show, that they overstaffed this show by like three or four people. So, yeah. I think like when I spoke to him, I don't know, at 3:00, he said they took in like 500 cards, and they said like at this time at a day at the National, they had taken in like 4,000 cards. So if you can just have that as an idea about how busy the show was for them, and then extrapolate that, like he said, any grading company that he talked to, as an employee of SGC, were slow getting cards in. David Adams is opening a shop in New York City. There was like a huge CGC presence, like bigger than the National. PSA was there. They had a much smaller presence at this show, but still a long line. What else? There was a literal like full what is it, like a UFC ring in the show itself, where like you can go in there and take a picture with a fighter. There were like 3-point shooting contests. There was like some VR stuff going on. Tag was back there doing their custom cards. What else? Tom Brady was there. He like bought some cards from some guys. Fanatics has no clue how to grow the hobby, and this whole 10x thing is a load of BS. I think they're probably trying to do it from like different verticals. I think they're trying to grow card shops, and I think they're trying to change how like card shops are operating their business. I think that there will be more like actual card show attempts like this. Like this is like Comic-Con for sports. I see it as. They had this like promotion where if you were to dress up as an athlete, like head to toe, like in full uniform, they would give you prizes and enter you into win like some crazy like experiences, like going to the Super Bowl, going to the NBA Finals, World Series, blah 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 blah. I would think selling at this show as an afterthought may be good for numbskulls impulse buying. I mean, yeah, I still think that like if you were to want to go to an actual card show, then you'd just go to White Plains. That's just a better show. I mean, you need the same amount of time to do both. Like Fanatics Fest is bigger. There are more people at Fanatics Fest, more tables to see, but there are more like quality, I shouldn't say quality tables, but like tables that you can spend like more time at White Plains. So maybe time spent is like similar, but more quality time spent is better at White Plains. Only caters to big dollars. People is spending, definitely going to be making things grow. Yeah, I mean, that's Comic-Con is different. Direct link to already very popular. Yeah, I don't see a direct link. Yeah, like I don't think like dressing like an athlete and then like going to meet that athlete is going to be like that cool. I think the athlete would be like, oh, like awesome. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Ashish, big dealer on Facebook, said he bought stuff Fanatics Fest yesterday, then moved to White Plains for the weekend. Yeah, I mean, I think that is like, right? Like he's choosing not to set up. He knows where to set up, and like spending $3,000 to be at Fanatics Fest is like absolutely asinine. I've been to like the Javits Center before, and there's so much space there, and they can put out like a big show. They also had like a whole like Fanatics merch store where like you could buy Fanatics Fest like merch, shirts, hoodies, stuff. But I have to wonder like what expense like Fanatics actually has into the show. If they're charging $60 at the door and dealers $3,000 for a booth times multiples, like how much money is that versus how much money is it costing them to rent the building, security, insurance, vendors, food, athletes? It's just super interesting to think about. I don't think that this show will take over or like become a national, and I don't think dealers are like thinking about it that way. But it is catering to a different audience. One, this show, this specific Fanatics Fest NYC specifically, and I think they're going to be having more. They're going to be having them on the West Coast. They're going to be having them like where Pittsburgh, I heard, in different places, in different sizes too, of course. I'm just kind of wondering like what the other iterations of this will look like. And like how much value people place in the like extra stuff. Like, yeah, Orlando's, yes, I think that's the next one. Like how much value, like for the average showgoer, not me, I'm there for just cards. Like how much value does the other stuff like really bring? To wait in line to get in, to wait in line to like shoot a free throw for something. To wait in line to whatever, to like a photo op, wait in line for an autograph, wait in line for a panel. And like that, those are like really unique and interesting things that like have not been done before. Like there was a panel this morning of like Derek Jeter and David Ortiz. Like that's really cool. And like think like only Fanatics can put something like this on. There's not like a big body that has so many athletes signed that can do this. And I think people like I overheard like people say like that was the sickest thing I've ever seen. And so I think there are people that like that love that stuff. Is this like a perfect event for us, like the card collectors and the hobbyists? Like, absolutely not. It's just not. It's not catered specifically for us. It is like this huge other event plus a card show. And I think the card show is an afterthought. But what they're in terms of like their marketing effort, because they're not going to get the audience. They're not going to compete and take people away that otherwise go to White Plains. They're not going to compete and take people otherwise go to the National that are a hobbyist, a card enthusiast. They're going to like market to the sports fan that like also may like cards. But even like at that, like the average sports fan is not going to go to a table and drop like $1,000 on a card. But dealers are forced to bring higher end cards because their cost is so high for the show. All right, let's see some questions and some statements here. Michael Rubin told Jeff Wilson, we're going to lose money at Fanatics Fest. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. No desire for Fanatics Fest unless they pay homage to his, yeah. And that's not really what they're doing here. I think they're trying to leave like the old stuff behind. Like I went to the industry conference and they're trying to move away from like the dusty, dark card shops, and they're trying to make them look like the shiny new, like bright light display cases, like they're like trying to move everything into this new idea that they have. And so, yeah, I don't think they have any interest in the history of Topps, Bowman, or Bazooka, like at all. How much of push towards ultra modern Topps products were there? I didn't spend a lot of time at the Topps booth. They had some like interactable like space there. You have to like download an app and then like use your VR like through your, or like use your camera from your phone to have like a VR experience. I missed that like intentionally. But like there were like big wax dealers there, Dave Adams, Steel City, places like that. Mike, tickets were $50 plus like $10 more for like processing and crap like that. What was all there that justified the admission price? That's really funny. Any giveaways? I didn't receive anything with general admission. Food was also pretty expensive inside, of course. Like we're in New York City, so that's like that comes with its own like level of like cost of entry. I mean, they did like Topps does like their like crappy like pack wars. They're so loud. We know what that sounds like at the National. Like it's so annoying. And so if you're at a table while that's going on, you're not going to be at a table. You're just not going to be there. So yeah, it's just, to me, it's not the show for me. It's not a show I'd ever set up at like in a million years. To pay $3,000 for a booth for 3 days is just, it makes absolutely no sense. Like if you need to sell $3,000 worth of cards to break even, you better have like some absolute like heat. But I don't know. Like the math does not math for me. Like I would never ever set up at that show. Considering it's $1,500 to spend up at the National at their smallest table, and that's even if you can get in. So were there any big wax dealers selling panini wax at the show? I don't know. I did hear that Grant Williams broke a box of 2018 National Treasures and pulled a Luca RPA number to 10 and then FaceTimed Luca. So like things like that like are pretty cool because like that won't happen at the East Coast National. It's not going to happen at Philly. Like Tom Brady himself like walked around the show and like bought cards. I heard that like Gronk took a card of himself like with the dealer's permission and spiked it on the ground and then signed the card. And like I think things like that are like interesting and like fun as like a fun story to tell, but does it bring like actual value? Maybe, but not for me. Like I don't know. A lot of people were running around with their phones following athletes like as they walked from one place to another, which was definitely weird. Hey TJ, or yeah. So Tony, sorry. I don't know why TJ. I see TJ in it. It's Tony. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. It is like All-Star Fan Fest on steroids. I heard that like the administrative part of the show is like a challenge, but like for us, like as patrons, like we would never see that. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions about it? I don't think that it will like revolutionize card shows. I don't think it will like like I didn't watch Mike and Garrett's live stream this morning. I saw that it happened, and maybe I'll like watch a little bit of it and see. Yeah, I mean, people like they were walking around. I don't know, Tony. I don't know like what time people were signing, what time people were doing photo ops. I have no visibility into that. Scott, it was not busy. The card show itself was not busy, not like the National, not like the biggest card show you've ever been to. The rest of the show was busy. And that's catering to like the sports fan, not the card enthusiast or hobbyist. And so I think people have like different motivation for going to the show than going to some other show. Like this is not just a card show. It is like a fan experience that also has cards. And I think that's like how they're marketing it, plain and simple. I think that like if a dealer goes to the show, they have to like if they're flying across the country from California for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 people, like how much is a flight to cut like from LA to LaGuardia? It's probably around like $600 round trip or more, plus $3,000 at the table, plus your hotel. You're into this show from like, it's probably a $4,000 or $5,000 show. I mean, it's probably a $5,000 show. And so to be in the hole before you even sell a card, $5,000, that's tough. Would you pay to go again if they hold one in New York City? No, absolutely not. Okay, so if people are late, the only reason why I went to the show is because I dropped off some things at Baseball Card Exchange. And if they were at White Plains, I would have gone to White Plains. I have a feeling that Fanatics was subsidizing quite a few vendors and others there. That's totally possible. If they want to grow the card show side of things, you would think they'd make some kind of special event. I think there was like some exclusive cards that Topps was releasing in like Chrome or something. Again, like not the thing that I focus on at all, but yeah, I did hear something about that. But yeah, just not the thing that I go for. People were like, there were breakers, but like, again, if you're spending $3,000 for a table, like you're committing like table space that you would otherwise like have inventory and try to be selling things to breaking. So why don't you just break at home? I didn't look at the breaking area. I just looked at like the actual card show. There were dealers, Nate, and corporate, like the National, but like there was a lot of corporate. I wouldn't say as much corporate as the National. Like the corporate area, the National is too big in my opinion. And they just like don't add a lot of value for people. I think people just like skip that stuff. Tony, I didn't look at the breaking area. Like I did see tables like that had people breaking like behind the table, and while they had like their little like half horseshoe or like half circle like in front where people were like actually selling, like buying and selling cards. Yeah. Other people have more questions. I know people are like hopping in like somewhat late, so I don't mind like repeating stuff if people want to hear other info. But yeah, definitely interesting. I mean, that's my opinion of the show. As like a card enthusiast, as a hobbyist, like it is not the show for me. Sorry, hold on. Stop. Stop eating. He's good, guys. He's good. He's good. So yeah, I mean, not the show for me. I would not go again. I was actually very happy with. Okay, so the reason why I went to this. So sorry. We're able to find any Hank Greenbergs. I found one. Well, I didn't buy any, but I did see a handful, small handful. So what you're saying is whether it's said, it sounds like a sports card show that's based around an annual auto show. I don't know. I mean, I suppose they do have like giant shows at the Javits Center, so they know how to do stuff like that. Was PSA busy? Yes, they do. They did have lines like while I was like in and around that area. There was like generally always a line. An auto show feeling. I've actually like never been to like an auto show in a convention center. I've been to like the like car show. People drive their car up and you can look at them. Yeah, I mean, let's find out like what other people think about the show, like via YouTube, via like other platforms. Not the perfect show for like the card hobbyist. For the sports fan though, that like doesn't care about money, like yeah, you can have some fun in that show. There's like a dedicated bar area that you can like just sit and have a drink, which is kind of nice. And it's like big. So I mean, the show like has a lot of. Most of the feedback I've seen so far has been from influencers. Yeah, I mean, of course, they're always going to like try and post first. That's why I wanted to come on and give like an actual like hobbyist and collector viewpoint, not someone who's just going there to. Yeah, auto show at Javits. This sounds like the sports equivalent. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there are similarities. Sure, there are similarities. You know, if you have any more questions, I guess, again, I don't mind repeating myself. I know people are jumped in here a little later. But yeah, I'll stay on for like another few minutes and then I'll probably grab a burger. Okay, so this is another thing. Kids were $30 to get in. $30 to get in. Usually kids like at a show get in for free or like a very discounted rate. Kids were $30 to get in. And there were a lot of kids, like young kids, not just like kids like, you know, wheeling and dealing like we see at a card show with their like Pelican cases and whatever, with their lunch boxes, but there were like young children at the show, young. And I am certain that they paid $30 to get in. No, yeah, I mean, that was like the other thing that like kind of shocked me. Every person had a badge on with a lanyard. So like you can't like walk someone in, then take the badge off like some people do at the National, or like any other big show. You can't like walk people in. At least not what I. Hearing the autograph area has been a complete disaster. So that, Garrett, that was not like an area that I even stepped foot into. What I'm curious as to what you are hearing in regards to that. So no, that was a huge part of the show. Entry fees are the same as New York Comic Con, including kids prices and the guy who helped Fanatics. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. But I suppose like if there's precedent of doing it and Comic-Con is so successful, then I guess they felt like they could do it here too. Yeah, but Garrett, I'm curious to hear what you heard. The clowns are running the circus. So what that tells me is like people that don't know how to like run an autograph show where there are like thousands of people waiting, or like athletes are moving too slow or people are moving too slow. I did see like at one point there were like pretty long lines for like photo ops and autographs. I didn't spend a lot of time in that area at all. As like it's kind of like as I was leaving, so I didn't like catch a lot of that. You guys want to see what I bought? Here, I'll show you. I did actually buy some stuff. Okay, so Roy Face, high number from 53 Tops, low grade. Tony Kubek, popular rookie, mid number. Oh, it's got paper loss in the back. I didn't even look at that. Whoops. Second year Bob Uecker. It's got some wax in the front that I'm just going to wipe off these pantyhose here. A decent 64 Hank Aaron. This is all from the same dealer. Hal Newhouser, high number, 53. Harvey Haddock's high number. All low grade. Brooks Robinson rookie. This I got not thrown into the deal, but it's got like a little crease down there, but otherwise a pretty nice card. Then some T206s, Hooks, Wiltsey, Sovereign back, and then a who's this guy? White, Old Mill Southern Leaguer, and Mitchell, and there's like a ghost image. You can kind of see it on the back. So I don't know. I thought that lot was pretty cool. So I don't know. We'll see. Nothing crazy. The Brooks Robinson's nice. I'll probably grade that. Yeah, some interesting things. Got the cards from these guys. Grand Slam Collectibles. They have a store on Long Island. Love to know how many tickets Kareem sells. What was the price to get him to sign something, Ron? I don't know if I caught that. Yeah, Scott, I love the second year Bob Uecker. I did see a PSA 9 Uecker rookie. The guy wanted like 30 grand for it. It was an amazing card. All right, these are not wanting to go back in here, so. Anyway, you guys don't have to watch me fiddle around with this. So I'm going to, yeah, it's a huge card. He had another like PSA 9 rookie or PSA 9 of something that was like he also wanted 30 grand for it, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah, couldn't believe it. Some guy had like a 1914 Cracker Jack Matthews in there, like stuff that like you would just not expect to see at Fanatics Fest was there. So people definitely brought like their high end stuff for the show. Yeah, but I'm gonna wrap up here, guys. I appreciate you all coming in and listening to my thoughts, and I guess we'll see how this all kind of shakes out. Yeah, we'll see. Thanks, guys, for watching, and enjoy the weekend, enjoy Friday. If you're going to a show, I hope it's better than Fanatics Fest. and make it a good one, guys. Enjoy.